The fuel shutoff valve on this thing is leaking again. Here, come inside, I'll show you the problem. So, this is what the gas shutoff valve on the Ford Model A looks like. It's a straight 90-degree on or off type of deal. And let me show you how it looks inside. Then you can see that there is a tapered plug in this housing, and it has two holes drilled into it at a 90-degree angle. Now when the valve is switched off, like this, then there is nowhere for the gasoline to go because there is no hole in the top, and therefore it seals off. Switch it on, and the hole right here diverts the gasoline over to this hole right here, and therefore permits it to go to the engine, to the float ball and the carburetor. The problem with this design is there is no real way to, make sure it's properly seated. So therefore all you're relying is that little bit of friction on the O-ring to keep this taper piece in its taper seat. And any bit of debris or dirt that comes from the tank and manages to get in between the seat will score it up, and you may not even be able to see it, but there are a couple of very, very fine grooves worn into this thing, and that is already enough to make this thing leaking. So I've taken this thing off the car the first time and tried to lap the seat. Didn't work because that one was quite badly worn. Bought a new one, which is this here. It lasted about 3 weeks or so, and it started leaking as well. And then, last not least, I thought, alright, maybe I can try and machine one of these pieces myself. Put a great deal of effort into this. It didn't work again. So, you may understand that I was quite fed up with this thing at that point. And I threw it in the garbage. Jetzt reicht's. Elendes Drecksding. That, however, didn't really solve my problem. I still had a leaky shutoff valve, and, well, combine that with a non-fuel pump type of setup where the gasoline is always trying to flow. It will find a way to get into the float bowl, and then fill that up, and then maybe the needle and seat aren't properly working. Then the gasoline will flow over into the air filter, soak it nicely, and one nice day you crank your engine, it backfires, and boom, your car is on fire. For in between, what I did after each overnight stop, I would drain the sediment bulb and plug up the gas line. Not really something that you want to be doing for the rest of your life. So I went online, tried to figure out what these threads were, and looked for a shutoff valve arrangement which could be adopted for my purposes. I found this, which said to have the same thread on here, and the pitch is the same, alright, but I think you can see quite clearly that those aren't the same diameter. That's because this is American thread, this is British thread, they don't cooperate with each other, and metric isn't even in the game here. And trying to find something with that combination basically impossible. This one has quite a neat design as well, it even has a reserve function. Let me take this one apart for you too. There is a spring washer in here which will keep this thing tight against the seat, and why I like this is because it doesn't rely on a metal-to-metal fit. Instead there is a rubber gasket in here, and then there is what the 90-degree holes were in this one, a 90-degree kind of slot cut into it, which is then going to respectively open or close the connection between two of these holes. So again, wrong thread, nothing I could do about it. So I took a look in my drawer of many things and found yet another valve. This one has a right thread over here. Problem is it would have space problems because this would need to screw in through the tank and this here would be in the way. It it's too long over here, then there isn't the right receptacle for the gas line over here, and of course it's the wrong thread on top, so it's not really usable. But the reason why I show it to you anyways is because I kinda like the concept of this thing. Here, let me take this one apart as well. And now you can see that the basic valve body is rather simple. It's the elbow piece here, and then down in there you may be able to see a flat seat. And all this thing does is have this disc be screwed tightly against said seat. Rather neat idea. Only problem is that the amount of seating surface is limited, and well, any piece of debris will get pressed straight into there, and there is actually a bit of damage on this seat as well. So I wouldn't want to adopt this. However, I took it as sort of an inspiration, if you will, for, well, my own design. I know it may sound stupid to you, but if you ask me, it is simpler to modify the existing gas valve rather than taking one with the proper principle and adopting the threads. Because this is a tapered thread, this here has some weird seating surfaces over here, and those are both, you know, UNC or UNF threads. I don't have the tabs, I don't have the dies. So what I've decided is make this into this. And the way I plan to do it is face this side here flush, drill and tap a hole through here, and solder a piece onto the side here, which we can then use to put all the sealing material into here, graphited yarn to keep gasoline from leaking out this way, and of course the valve needle seat and whatnot. And that's the next part. I'm not going to go for a flat sealing surface, I'm going to go for a tapered seat, which is exactly what they did in my gasoline blowtorches, and they work brilliantly. I mean, they're under pressure, and when you shut them down, they hold that pressure for hours and hours on end. So I figure that kind of principle has proven that it works and should be a manageable conversion for this year. What I'll need to do in the first place, of course, is get rid of the taper seat that is already in here and fill it in. Right, so here's the petcock Shutoff valve ready to be plugged up with this here piece, and unwantingly I have made this quite the snug fit, which I don't know how, because it's a 15mm drill. This is 15mm steel. Usually a drill will drill oversize, but when you take a look at the wear marks that the piece of round stock here left, then it is quite clear that the hole I drilled is not round. So a snug fit might be nice, you'll be thinking, but actually, because I want this to seal all the way around, I will machine this thing here down a little bit, so it's a sliding fit in here, just so that I can be sure that the solder, once I plug this up, will flow everywhere around here and will seal it off nicely, because the last thing I want to have is some small gully or path for the gasoline to leak from this hole to that hole. That just would defy the entire purpose here. Okay, one of the more nerve-wracking parts is done. You can see I have drilled the seat for the needle there, and then there's one larger hole which the insert that we're going to slide and solder into here is going to register in, as well as the plain face here. This in the rear here is a 60-degree seat, which I did with a center drill, and that was quite tough job to do because there is a through hole, of course, in the middle, and with all the brass and the sharp tool that I had, it wanted to just grab in there, so I had to get a little creative. So for the last few tenths of millimeter, I used the chuck by hand, because with the backlash in my tailstock, the tool would just grab into there and try to pull a chip bigger than, well, the depth I wanted to do. So what I did was put this center drill in here so that the depth of the hole is limited by the jaws. Give it a couple of turns, loosen the drill, advance it a few tenths, do the same thing again, and I got rid of most of the chatter marks in here. You can still see a bit of this helical striping. I hope I can get rid of that by making myself a steel lap and using some lapping compound to smooth that out. However, I will do that after soldering all this stuff together, because most likely the flux and the heat will ruin the surface on here a little bit. Now comes the next nerve-wracking part, which is soldering the thing together. I was still hesitant about silver soldering it because it's quite a large part and I'm a little afraid the heat of the torch won't be enough. But on the other hand, it's just going to make me feel safer. So yeah, I'm going to try it. I have a second torch handy just in case the heat shouldn't suffice. And step one is going to be have it sit like this and seal off the piece that we punched in here first, and then I'm going to flip it up like this and set the insert into here and solder that one into place. Wish me luck! Okay, now it is assembled, and blowing into it while shutting it doesn't seem to uncover any big leaks. Now I want to know how it's going to perform under pressure, because I'm not going to put petrol in here, it just gives me headaches. So the thinnest liquid we have in the household is mineral spirits. I'm going to put that into this pipe and then hook the compressor up to the end of it and let it sit. And after, well, shall we say 10-15 minutes or so, I will see if anything has run out of here. And if so, it's going to get discarded. That's just how simple it is. I've opened and closed it a bunch of times just to simulate a little bit of wear, if you will. You know, because the other drain cock principle took me maybe a month until it started leaking, so I'm hoping I'm simulating that month of driving, you know, once a day maybe, by opening, closing it 30 times, and 60 times would be 2 months. It's not that simple, I know there's dirt from the tank and whatnot, but just so you know, I'm not going to lollygag around. I'm trying to really have something that works and lasts here. So before I give myself the efforts of draining the tank again and making a mess again and just finding out, oh damn, the fucking thing is still leaking. Right, so here's the setup. This is the compressor. Line goes along here into the vise and then straight into the drain cock. And a piece of cardboard underneath to catch and amplify every drop, just so I immediately notice if any leakage is going to occur. Now I'm not going to let this run at peak performance. I'm going to limit this to, well, shall we say 2.5, 3 bars. That's about so many square inches per foot-pound to all the Americans. And yeah, let it run for a while, see how it does. My coupling is leaking. And now it's leaking over here, god damn it! Okay, second attempt. Okay, 15 minutes and it's dry as a bone. Also pleased to say from both sides, so from the gland area there's no leakage either. Do you know what? I think I'm going to assemble this thing into the car. Okay, so here's the deal. I am sick and tired of draining the fuel tank. This is one hell of a job, and there is more in the tank than I think will fit into my canister. So I'm going to use a catch tray here. Hurry up! And then there's two possible outcomes. Number one is everything going to go fine. And number two, which is much more likely, is this car will smell like fuel for the rest of my life. It went wrong. Big time. Fuck. So in order to keep this hand lever here from interfering up at the top, I had to cut it off. And I did that with an angle grinder, which is a stupid idea, and you should never do that, because, well, petrol's right next to it, and sparks and so on, so I didn't film it. In the long run, I'm probably going to make myself a hand wheel here. For now, I'm going to leave it, just to, you know, not have to be making extra effort, only to find out that this thing is going to leak sometime soon as well. For now, this is okay. It'll work. So I emptied the sediment glass here and had it sit overnight with the drain cork shut. Trust me, I did. Whom would I be fooling but myself here? Now we're going to open it up and see if it has the amount of flow that we need. Well, that's looking pretty good. So now we'll need to go for a run, see if it can also sustain that amount of flow rate for high speeds.